فرص كنت بتستغرب يعني، فمعلش. انما هي يعني مش ان شاء الله احنا هنبدأ الآن، وان شاء الله صلاة السنة والوتر تؤجل لما بعد ان شاء الله. فضيلة الشيخ ياسر موجود ان شاء الله، والاخ ضياء سيقوم بالتقديم واستلام الأسئلة والمناقشة وإدارة الندوة ان شاء الله.
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, just a small introduction inshallah regarding Sheikh Yasir Fahmy. Sheikh Yasir was raised here in New Jersey. I believe you were born here as well, Sheikh, correct? In New Jersey? Yeah, born and raised, right? He went to Rutgers University to study finance. After he graduated from Rutgers, he went to work, I believe, for a year or two. For how many? 4 years. All right, so he went to work for 4 years, corporate. Shaif, great. And then after that, subhanAllah, he decided that he wanted to go study Sharia. And so he went back to Egypt. I wanted to share a little small story of that he shared with me in the past. So Sheikh Yasir, when he went to Al-Azhar, they made him repeat the tawjih. He had to go ahead and actually take the exam for him to graduate his senior year from Egypt. And after he received his scores, he went to the admissions department, and he came and he informed them that I wanted to apply for Al-Azhar University. And subhanAllah, they asked him after they saw his scores, they're like, okay, what do you want to enter? Because he had a lot of options, right? Because overseas, if you guys know, you go based upon your grade. So like if you have high marks, then you can go into medicine and so on and so forth. If you don't, then you can't really get into that. So he told them I wanted to get into Mashayikh, right? He wanted to study Sharia. And the guy is like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you want to be a Shaykh? You can become a doctor, right? And Sheikh Yasir is like, no, I want to study Sharia. He's like, no, there's something wrong with you. You need to think through this, right? And Sheikh Yasir said, I left America. I graduated with my degree, worked in finance for a few years, and I left all of that so I can come here and study the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the man that I'm sitting next to right now. Obviously, he has a long life of ta'ah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a long life of serving the Muslim community both here and in Boston. So without a further ado, inshallah, Sheikh Yasir Fahmy.
This is difficult for me, I'll use this. MashaAllah, barakallahu feekum, Diya, may Allah bless you. And you need to beef up a little bit on my bio. Bismillah wa alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. It's a blessing to be here, bifadlillahi ta'ala. Sheikh Muhammad Musa has been reaching out to me to come for a while, and alhamdulillah we're finally able to make it happen. Actually, about that story, so I don't know if you guys understood the subtlety that I had to repeat. So I have 2 high school degrees. I have a high school degree from here and a high school degree from Azhar, because when I went even in my late 20s to go into Azhar, they wouldn't let me go directly into the college, so I had to go into the high school. So when I scored out, when I was testing it, I got really high scores, alhamdulillah. The guy at the admissions office at Al-Azhar could not believe that with my scores I was going into Sharia. That's what he was like. And he would not let me submit the paperwork. And then he told me, he's like, does your father know you're doing this? I said, no, I literally flew across the world to be here for this. I know what I'm like. He thought he cannot allow me. And this is an Azhar administrator. This is not like someone from the street. This is like, you can't go tib, go handasa, don't do this. Subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our institutions. Ya Rabbil Alameen. So I wanted to talk a little bit this evening about the idea of purpose and intentionality. Reason being is that when we look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the thoroughly distinct features of his life, one of the critical markers of his life, was that he was a man with purpose, a man on a mission, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wasn't just living here on this earth, existing, marrying and having children and just making ends meet. That wasn't his identity. When the Prophet ﷺ speaks about his own messengership, he says, وَمَا بُعِثْتُ إِلَّا لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I have not been sent except to perfect the character, the best of character. That's what he says about himself. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the messengership of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except as a cause and a source of mercy and compassion to all the worlds. So this is the identity of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has a purpose, he has a mission, there is an intention behind his existence. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about sending us the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says that we send from every nation, every people, a messenger, min anfusihim, from themselves, yatlu alayhim ayati, wa yuzakkihim wa yu'allimuhum al-kitaba wal-hikmah. That this prophet or this messenger has a role, has a responsibility, has a duty. Yatlu alayhim ayati, to convey the signs of Allah to people, to teach them about the reality of the divine. Wa yuzakkihim, and to purify. The Prophet ﷺ is commissioned with purifying humanity, purifying the landscape, purifying the world from faulty conceptions of the divine, from alternate philosophies and ideas, from purifying people from their lower nafs, from the impact of the shaitan, etc. And the last mission of the Prophet ﷺ was وَيُعَلِّمُهُمْ, and is وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and to teach people the book, divine guidance, to teach people the wisdom, which is the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we have in our tradition, our religion, all of us here bifadlillah, we say La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. We all claim to be Muslimin, people who love Allah, who love the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and who seek to follow in the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if we have a religion that talks to us about our Prophet's identity in this tone, and then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us about our identity, what does He say? Now this is about the Prophet. Now, okay, people say, well, that was the Prophet. What about us? Allah says to the angels, "Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa." I am going to place on this earth a representative. Who is that representative? Everyone raise their hand. It's you. We are the representatives. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. So then the angels responded, astonishingly, they said, تجعل فيها ما يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك. Are you going to place on this earth these human beings, and what they're going to do is sow corruption and spill blood, and we as angels, all we do, نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك, we glorify you and praise, and we affirm your majesty. So what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to the angels? What did He say? Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know what you do not know. So Allah is effectively telling the angels, listen, I am placing these humans on earth as my representatives, and I know about them that which you as angels will never know. So He effectively said, humble yourself. You're going above your pay grade. I know my humans. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in another ayah says, إِنَّا عَرَضْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَن يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ. That we have we have presented the amana, the trust. We presented it to all of creation. These heavens, the earth, the mountains, and all of them said, "Ashfaqna minha, we can't carry this reality, this is too much." وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ, but the human being are carriers of the trust. What is the trust? The trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is on the shoulder of the human being is the responsibility and the duty to convey La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, to be representatives of the divine on earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us this book with purpose, with meaning, with a mission. Now if we take all of this and we juxtapose this with our lives, every one of us sitting here, the way we live our lives, if we're going to be honest and critical of ourselves, do we live our lives with any type of distinct sense of mission or purpose, like the Quran as it tells us about the Prophet, about our Prophet, and about ourselves? Do we live our lives thinking with intentionality and purpose that I have a cause and a mission in life that is far greater than myself? If you look at the average human being today, we are utterly obsessed with ourselves. We have become, as human beings, so self-absorbed and extremely narcissistic. Life is all about me. If you think of the average person, their pursuits, their wants, their desires, their feelings, their aspirations, everything has to do with what? Me. I want financial stability, I want financial security, I want financial excess. I want to be successful, whatever that means. You know, I have this idea of my personal pursuits and my idea of success. I need to be successful, I need to achieve a lot. I want followers, I want likes, I want subscribers, whatever it is, all the obsessions that people have. I want, and I have this idea of myself that is so thoroughly engorged and ingratiated. And that governs the average person's life. You think of, I'm in the sheikh business, okay? So that means that I'm in the business of people's problems. That's what I'm in the business of. Not people's happiness, people's problems. Because that's what people come to me with. People don't come to me and say, "Hey, Assalamu alaikum Sheikh, I'm happy." No, I've never got that. Hi guys, Assalamu alaikum Sheikh, save me. Help me. My marriage, my child, my identity, my this. And alhamdulillah, we accept our role. And may Allah help us to help and guide us to guide. Ya Rabbil Alameen. The underlying theme of 99.9% of the problems I face have to do with the nafs, have to do with the self. People are lost, dazed, confused, suffering. Why? Because they're lost in an idea of themselves. I had dreamed that for myself, I would have X by now. I would be making this much money, or I'd be married by now, or I'd be having kids by now, or I'd be this by now. Something that has to do with the self. I'm devastated. Why? Because this person left me, or that person did. Self. All self-centered narratives. And I ask myself sometimes, when I see all this suffering, and we are so far removed from this purposeful living of the Prophet ﷺ, from this purpose-driven life that Allah has illustrated for us in the Quran, you see why the disparity exists. Because we have lost sight of the mission. We have lost sight of our purpose. We have lost sight of why we exist in the first place. We don't actually, or we're not conscious of that anymore. We periodically pay lip service to it. So we'll periodically say things like, yeah, of course, lillah. Inshallah, inshallah, Jannah, ya Rabb. Okay, well good. If inshallah, Jannah. And then periodically we pay a lip service of lillah, but practically and functionally speaking every day, my life is governed by some idea of myself and my wants and my desires. Am I a true follower of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? These are very critical questions we have, because these are existential questions. This is a question of your identity, who you are. Today, in the public sphere, when they want to talk about identity, what do they talk about? They talk about very superficial, nafsani things. Right? My identity is the color of my skin. My identity is my sexual desire. That's my identity. No, that has nothing to do with identity. That's an accidental quality. You happen to have this color of skin. You happen to have these desires. Those are accidental. They're in the language of al-manatiqa, of the logicians. These are awarid. You know, these are not your essence. This is a part of you. This is accidental. You didn't choose to have this skin complexion. You didn't choose. You may have feelings, you may have wants, you have desires, but it has nothing to do with your identity. Those are just things about you, features. But your identity has everything to do with your existence on this earth, which is nothing other than a function of divine will. The only reason we exist on this earth is because Allah willed it. That's it. Nothing about us is unique or special. Of course, in a secularized world like the one we live in, the human being is the center of existence. Right? I am Ilah. I am God. That's why that's what people say. Think in this modern age. There's no God, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So he's been removed from the imagination of the average person. So what's been replaced? Something has to replace, because we have a need to believe. We have a need to attach our hearts and minds to something. So in the absence of the divine, what is it attached to? Me. That's what it becomes attached to. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you not seen those who take as their high Lord, their ilah, their hawa, their desires, their wantonness, their covetousness? That's one of the clear exemplifications of the human condition today. We have taken as our ilah our nafs. Why is the average person devastated in their life? If you follow the line, it comes back to your nafs. Devastated, lost, confused, because we are prisoners in our nafs. We are prisoners in ourselves. We have really bad ideas that govern the way we conceive of things, the way we think, the way we imagine, our expectations, our assumptions. People come to me all the time and they'll say, by now I should, by now it should have been. They speak in absolute terms about must and should, and it couldn't have, and this shouldn't be happening to me. And I think to myself, like, how is it that someone whose existence is in and of itself min al-jaiz, jaiz al-wujud. In the language of the scholars of theology, they say that you and I, if we're going to describe us, we are jaiz al-wujud. We are beings that could or could not exist. It's a possibility. Your existence is a possibility. Is your existence a necessity, Khalid? No. Do you necessarily have to exist? So why do you exist? It's willed. So your existence is jaiz. It's a possibility. There's only one entity in all of existence that is wajibul wujud, that is necessarily existent. That when we say must and should and we use those absolute terms, it only applies to one entity. Who is that? Allah. Allah is the only one that is wajibul wujud. All of us are jaiz. So if my essence is jaizul wujud, it's possible, then everything beyond that is what? Possible. Nothing is a should. That's why we have to remove that language from our dictionary. Oh my God, I'm 35, I should have. No, stop. There's nothing should. Everything about you is possible. Right? Everything is a possibility. There's a ta'alluq baynana wa bayn Allah. There is a relationship, a distinct attachment between us and Allah. And it's called ta'alluq al-qabda. نحن في قبضته يقلبنا كيف يشاء. We are in the constriction of the divine. He alters us as He wills. He wills. He wills our reality, you know. But He gave us a distinct purpose and a mission for our existence. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. There is an essence to your existence, and it's real. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attached to your existence a distinct reality. I created you so that you live in surrender and worship. That's your existence, that's your identity. So don't come here thinking existential thoughts about yourself and how come and I want and I should have and me, as if the world revolves around me. Most of the marriages that are falling apart because of this issue. The nafs. It has become a battle of wills. My wants versus your wants. My desires versus your desires. I have young people come to talk to me about like marriage consideration. And it sounds more like a negotiation that I was privy to when I was in finance, like mergers and acquisitions between corporations, and it has anything to do with marriage. Basically, effectively, it's like, how are you going to ensure that I accomplish my goals and wants in life? That's not marriage. Full stop. That has nothing to do with marriage. Marriage is not about, it's not a business contract between two partners who are like, you know, it's a 50-50, you're going to get this, I'm going to get that. Here's the profit sharing model that we have. That's not marriage. That's why these super corporatized, consumerized, capitalized, secularized notions of marriage have nothing to do with the spirit of marriage that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described for us in the Quran. And so we have some work to do, right, in coming back and really asking some critical questions about our identity, about who we are. What is the purpose of my journey in life? There's a very seminal hadith that is in the beginning of many of the hadith collections, the hadith of intention. Who here knows the hadith of intention? Huh? We have a good number of people in the room that know the hadith of intention. The hadith of intention is a seminal hadith, critical hadith. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. إِنَّمَا, this article is to indicate and emphasize al-hasr wal-qasr, that verily actions are nothing but a function of intentions. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Your actions are a function of your intention. What does that mean? That means you act. Do you act? What's your name? Yasir. Not like an actor on Hollywood or something. I'm talking like act. You just do things, right? This is an action. All of these actions that we do, they're driven by what? Intention. There's something. I did this because I'm thirsty, etc. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. Every single person, by the way, this is a big idea, so pay attention. Everyone gets that which they intend. إِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. So your actions are by your intentions. That's an indication of what? That you're both an actor outwardly and you're an actor inwardly. So you do things with your limbs and you do things with your heart and your mind. Internally, you intend, you think. And that's something that Allah only gave to the human being at this level. So only the human being can, what the scientists say, we can cognate and we can metacognate. So we can think and then we can think about our thoughts. No other creation can do that. So we can dream, we can imagine, we can think about something that happened 100 years ago, and we can think about what we want in the future. We can imagine things. That's all the human capability. So Allah has equipped us with a very strong ability to think, reflect. And therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make it that the human being is going to exist like the cattle. The cattle don't think, they just do. That's what the cattle do. The cattle wants to eat, it eats. It wants to copulate, it wants to have intimacy with an animal, it has it. It doesn't consider the repercussions of its actions. That's why they fall off of cliffs and they go into private properties. It's not like, oh my God, I shouldn't go there. No, they're boom, right? That's what cattle is like. So we have this distinct ability to think about things. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, you need to understand something about yourself. All these actions you do, they're driven by intentions. And what you really get out of this existence, at its essence, is what you intend. إِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. What is your motivation? What is your intention? Then the Prophet ﷺ makes a very stark distinction. He says, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلَّهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ لِلَّهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ. He says, very categorically, he says, the one whose hijrah. Now he went from amal to hijrah. The one whose hijrah, the one whose journey. Someone who's in a state of a muhajir is someone who's journeying. Like, who are the principal muhajirin in our tradition? Those who went from Mecca to Medina. Those are muhajirin. They developed an entire identity because of the purposefulness, the intention, the drive for their hijrah from Mecca to Medina. It was informed by 1,000 things. That hijrah was not just some arbitrary, wake up in the morning, you know what? I'm feeling like moving to Medina today. That's not how it worked. There was a build-up. There was a purpose. These were people who were fi sabilillah. Their identity as muhajirin was fi sabilillah. I'm in the path of Allah. And this hijrah is no other than, that's why the Prophet ﷺ say, when he turned around and looked back at Mecca, he said, Wallahi, you are the most beloved of lands to me. إنك لأحب الأرض إلي. You're the most beloved of lands to me. ولولا أن قومك أخرجوني منك لما خرجت. And if it wasn't for the fact that your people forced me to exit, I would not have left. So there is a whole purpose and intention for that hijrah. So the Prophet ﷺ say, you're on a hijrah. Every one of us. We are muhajirun. We have a journey. Now, he says, the one whose journey is distinctly marked by lillah wa li rasulih. What does that mean? What does lillah mean? Huh? For Allah. For the sake of Allah. This is lit-ta'leel. This is the purpose. This is the reason. So when you wake up, you think, you act, you behave, you motion, you buy, you marry, whatever it is you're doing, your hijrah in life, the choices you're making, the people you're choosing to marry, the people you're choosing to have as your friends in your company, the job that you have, etc. If all of that is sincerely driven by lillah, for Allah, now what does the reality of for Allah actually mean? I'll tell you what many people think this means. Many people think the following. I'm going to live the life that I want, and then I say, but all this is for Allah. Is that how it works? Is Allah just a rubber stamp? That I do whatever I want to do and then I say, oh, this is for Allah. But it wasn't really informed by Allah. It wasn't motivated by Allah. It wasn't governed by Allah. It wasn't guided by Allah. Allah did not have a critical role in the journey. Just a rubber stamp. Allah is here to just, like ثلاث دمغات في العشر العقاري في مصر, like just come and put 3 stamps and khatma, just a stamp. No, Allah's not here to just rubber stamp our lives. Allah is here to inform and dictate our lives and govern. And that's why He sent us a prophet that elucidated to us every other detail of our existence. How we're supposed to look at fiqh. Look at our entire genre called fiqh, Islamic law. Thousands and thousands of masail fiqhiyah, of legal questions about how you purify yourself, how you wash, how you eat, what you eat, when you don't, everything. How you marry, how you transact, utter detail into every part of our existence. That's on the practical legal level, when it comes to our ihsan, when it comes to our identities as beings of beauty who have spirits, our akhlaq, our suluk, the spiritual anatomy, our heart, our mind, our nafs, all of that. Intricate detail about the diseases that could afflict your heart and the way in which you have to cleanse your heart of diseases, and you have to be mindful of this behavior and that behavior, and what arrogance means and what ujub means, and etc., etc., etc. Extreme detail. So our religion is chock full of guidance. So for us to reduce it to a rubber stamp really puts into question our intentionality. How sincere is it that when I say, yeah, for Allah, I'm doing for Allah. I'm marrying this girl, oh, yeah, for Allah, inshallah. I really intend that. Okay, but you didn't really, I don't see how this person conforms to, this checklist of the divine. So how are you just rubber stamping? Well, it's what I really want. If I'm going to be honest, this is what I really like and want. I just need Allah to approve this. Right? That's where we have a complete faulty conception of what lillah actually means. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, if you are sincerely lillah, and lillah is as I defined it, governing every part of the equation, wali rasulihi, and sincerely for the sake of the Messenger ﷺ, with the same logic applied, governed, informed, guided by him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If that's the case, then truly, he says, your life will be, your journey will be lillahi wa li rasulih. So that's a big ticket item. That's a lot of work. to sit there and critique your intention and your purpose and ask yourself, wait, hold on. What am I doing? What have I done? Why am I doing this? Why have I chosen this path? Etc. etc. If it's not filtered through that lillahi wa li rasulih and really conforms to the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ and what is beautifully preserved for us in the Quran, then we have questions to ask. Now the Prophet ﷺ then he says, وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. This is also very stark, very telling. He says, and the one whose hijrah, the one whose life journey, is to get a piece of the dunya. لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا, I want to get a piece of the dunya. أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا, or to find a wife to marry, i.e., just to have, a family and kids. That's what it represents. It's a metaphor for just relationships. If, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, if your journey in life is marked by either getting a piece of the dunya or just having some relationships, marriage, etc., then that's what your journey will be for. And he says that in a dismissive tone. فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Meaning that it's not lasting. It's just for you. It lives and dies where? Here. In the dunya. It doesn't extend to the akhirah. Because once it gets marked and verified by lillahi wa li rasulihi, then it becomes existential. It lasts for you in this life, and it benefits you in this life, and it's there for you in the afterlife. Your journey now is marked by fulfilling your purpose, which is to be a servant of Allah. But if I've overlooked all of that, and my journey is strictly informed by some of these worldly base pursuits that I have, now, why does the Prophet ﷺ mention these two things? A piece of the dunya and family. Why these two things? Because the average person sitting here right now, all of us, those are the two things that consume 99.9% of our lives. It's either something of the dunya or relationships. What else is consuming your life? Something in those two realms. Most of us are stressed out, consumed, driven by what? Something. I want real estate. I want assets. I want a 401k. I want stock options. I want retirement plan. I need, right? Now, is it haram to want these things? Is it haram to work? No, of course not. You have to do these things, but there is a reason. There's a governing reason for that. It's not an identity. That's why you have a serious disease in the modern era called what? Careerism. Careerism is this completely false ideology of the following. So you come to Yasir. Come to Yasir when he was a younger man. Now he's coming into age now. When he was a younger man, say, Yasir, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? That's what people say. What do you want to be? Now, what is the be? This article, be, what does it represent? Doesn't it represent existence? Like, what do you want to be? Like your identity, your purpose, your being. Be is short for being. What do you want to be? In our modern, thoroughly consumerized, materialized world, your existence, your being, is that which you do to be a part of the machine of production, that which you can earn or you can spend. Because that's your only real benefit in the public sphere. By the way, like in our modern philosophy, what drives the engine today is basically you are of benefit, i.e. you can buy or spend or earn. That's what your identity really is. How much you can earn, how much you can spend. So therefore it becomes an identity. So we have a whole generation, now multi-generations, of young people whose identity at their essence is this thing called a job. Now, are jobs irrelevant? No, it's something you have to do, right? It's something that is almost like a necessary evil, right? Something you have to do. Why does work exist? Someone has to work to do the what? Why do you have to work? Why do you have to earn a living? Provide for your family. So there's a haja, there's a need, And so to fulfill that need, the need of money and work is to do what? To take care of responsibilities. Make sure that someone has food, shelter, right? We're all agreeing that? That's the basic reason type. But what happens when every single person now comes into life, as they're growing up, like, oh yeah, but my career. I need to pursue my career. Well, why do you need to pursue your career? Because it's my career. But what? Okay, but why? Because why shouldn't I? That's a good question. Maybe you should consider that. Like you're saying I should just have this career, but why? What's the purpose of this career? What purpose is it fulfilling? What need? Tell me what haja. Is it something within you? Like you have this something inside of you that says, I need a career so I can define myself. I can be able to represent myself in the public sphere and say, Ahlan wa sahlan, doctor, whatever. Like I need that. Okay, is that a purpose in life? You can't take that to the grave. You don't take titles to the grave. They don't help you there. All right? So why is it that careerism, and I use that terminology, ism, because it has become an ideology. Because when I ask people about their lives are nothing but a function of their career. So you go headlong into education, getting into the best possible schools, really killing yourself. Why? Because I have this idea of myself that I need to pursue. And that's driving a lot of people. And what is it leading to? It's leading to a lot of disaffected people who are completely disjointed, because a job will never fulfill you. A job will never define you. A job will never actually give you purpose. It will never fulfill that reality that Allah has placed. The only thing that ever fulfills that is your ubudiyyah. So we have a big problem when the Prophet ﷺ is actually highlighting the fact that most people, they define that their life is of worth or not based on the extent to which they have taken a piece of the dunya or they have relationships. So if Allah wills that a person never has children, then this becomes like the devastating part of my life. That I am a lesser than human being. Why? Because Allah has not willed for me to have this. Whoever said that? Whoever said that this was your identity? Of course, alhamdulillah, having children is a blessing that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give everyone children. Or marriage, it's a blessing that we ask Allah to give everyone. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you will have none of this, is that jaiz? Is that a possibility? Certainly. So if Allah is saying, no, this is not yes, pursue it as an act of ibadah. That's why I tell people who come to me and say, Shaykh, I've been trying to get married for 20 years. I said, well, keep on trying for the next 20 years. And we'll do our best. Even if you're 99 years old, and you're still saying, Allahumma ya Rabb, uzuqni zawja salihah. Wallahi, do that until the last breath. Right? I think Buzz Aldrin just got married at the age of 93. I just read it today. Right? He's 93, he just got married. So it's possible. But what's the point that I'm making? That if you pursue marriage as an act of ibadah, why is it marrying an act of ibadah? Because Allah and His Messenger ﷺ spoke extensively about it in our sacred tradition. Tazawwaju, the Prophet ﷺ says, get married. So we seek marriage. We seek it as an act of worship. If Allah then chooses to not grant that reality, that doesn't change my identity as a servant of Allah. It conforms perfectly to my identity as a servant of Allah, who is basically someone who wakes up every single day, and the servant of Allah has one governing question. What is the one governing question of the servant of Allah? What is it? Ya Allah, how can I serve you today? How can I please you today? That's what the servant does. You know the khaddam in the house? What is it? The khaddam wakes up, right? وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثُلُ الْأَعْلَى, of course. The servant wakes up in the morning and runs to, the Sayyid al-Bayt or whatever, and Rabbat al-Bayt, and they say, what can I make for you? What can I get you? How can I this? What clothes do you want me to prepare? How can I clean? That's what the servant does. We are servants of Allah. We are not gods walking on earth. We have to stop this nonsense, because today in the secularized world, what do you have? Charlemagne the God, a'udhu billah. He calls himself a god, right? When people thought, I'm a goddess. That's how women speak about themselves. I'm a goddess, right? My body's my temple. I have a temple, and I'm a goddess. So everything is me. So you come. So if I'm a goddess and my body's a temple, so you come and you worship me. You have to bow down to me because I'm a goddess and in a temple built into one. It's the new Trinity, right? And this is the real challenge that we have when we're not taking a more scrupulous analytical look at our lives. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us to critique and analyze our lives. Every single one of us here has to go and really spend time analyzing. Why do I live? What am I doing with my life? Not the what am I doing with my life question that has something to do with like, maybe I should be working a different job or maybe I should, no. That's not the type of talking. I'm talking about, am I existing with a purpose far greater than myself, or am I living for myself? Do I come into the family space for the sake of the community and the sake of the deen of Allah, or is this family just an extension of my ego and my nafs? Did you ever ask yourself why all these elderly in the Quran were asking for kids? All of the elderly of the Quran, Sayyidina Zakaria, Sayyidina Ibrahim, who else? Sayyida Sarah, all of them. They all want children at an old age. Why do they want children at an old age? You think because they want to take them to Baby Gap and put on little shoes and be cute? Is that why they were wanting these children? Why do you think they wanted children? Why? They have a mission in life. There's a higher purpose. I want a child who's going to inherit this cause of serving the deen of Allah. I want someone who's going to exist to be a continuous servant and a messenger of the messenger. That's what I want. I want someone who's serving the cause of this deen. That's why they wanted children. Of course, it's nice. It's okay that we as human beings, we're naturally jubilna. We have a natural disposition to want children and like children. So there's no conflict. We can like it. But Allah equipped us with a mind to give greater purpose and to have our lives governed by that greater purpose, not by our wants and our desires. So we have to check our nafs. We have to check ourselves. You know, we have to be careful of actually how much our nafs, our lower self, governs. By lower self, I mean an-nafsul ammara bisu, the lower self that commands towards evil. In a athar, it is said that al-a'da aduwak an-nafsul ladhi bayna janbayk. Your greatest enemy is the self within you. We live in a culture today that says what? Trust yourself, right? Trust yourself, you know, just do it, have it your way, right? That's literally quench your thirst. Isn't that, what is that, Sprite? Quench your thirst. All of this is nafsani. 100%. Just do it, nafs. Have it your way, nafs. Trust yourself, nafs. Literally quench your thirst, nafs, nafs, nafs. Your nafs is your greatest enemy. That's why if you go into the Arab world, and you say the following: someone's about to cross the street and they may get hit by a car. Khalid, you're Egyptian, right? Okay, if you're in Egypt and you see someone crossing the street and they're about to get hit by the car, what are you going to say to that person? بالعربي. أيوة خلي. Who said that? Who خلي بالك? You said خلي بالك? خلي بالك من إيه? أيوة. Okay. What does خلي بالك من نفسك mean? Break it down. Huh? Literally. No. What does it literally mean? Like literally define each term. خلي بالك من نفسك. Translate that for me literally. Huh? خلي. What does خلي mean? مولانا يعني ايه خلي؟ هم بيقولوا keep with fear. What does خلي mean? خلي, if you're going to do إخلاء, you're going to empty. خلوا المكان means what? Leave the space, okay? So the word خلي means to empty. Empty. That's what khalli means. Empty. What does balak mean? Your mind. So empty your mind. Min means what? From nafsak. Okay. So in colloquial Arabic, when we want to tell someone, take care of yourself, what do we literally tell them? Go tell me. Go ahead. Empty your mind of yourself. So that is the beauty of our tradition embedded into language, represented in expression, that actually represents an existential truth, that the only way that Khalid or Diya or anyone will ever take care of themselves is when they empty their minds of themselves. That's the only way, that's the only time you're taken care of. The more you think and you are convinced, I'm gonna get mine, I take care of me. The more we have these delusions of grandeur and these Napoleonic complexes, right, about who we are and what we can accomplish. That's why we have these insane narratives of we have little kids grow up thinking, I'm gonna save the world. A'udhu billah. Kind of delusion of grandeur is that? You're gonna save what? You're not gonna save what world are you gonna save? Right? I'm gonna change the world. That's what people say. I'm gonna save the world, change the world. Habibi, you change your la mu'akhza undershirt just to be nice. Allah, you don't change the world. Allah changes the world. Allah saves the world. Allah cures humanity. It doesn't mean that we don't pursue pursuits to bring relief as a servant of Allah. We say, Ya Allah, use us for your cause. So yes, we go and we help someone, we give charity, we build, we construct, we do research. Yes, we do these things as humble servants. Like for example with COVID, it was so astonishing. Everyone got unsettled and unended by this disease, this virus, correct? And this virus literally unsettled the entire reality of the human condition from east to west. Then this thing called the vaccine was introduced. Immediately, what was everyone in the media and what were they talking about? The miracle vaccine. We have to celebrate these scientists. No acknowledgement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, zero. As if Allah is literally the one who brought this virus into existence, and Allah is the one that gave the raw material for there ever to even be a consideration of something called a vaccine, and we don't even know what the reality of this vaccine aslan is. But everyone is claiming these miracle prophet-like scientists who produce. Alhamdulillah, scientist is an honorable thing that someone may do some research, but with humility, not with this delusion of grandeur that I'm somehow this great remarkable being. So we have a lot of work to do in the following. We have to check ourselves, we have to humble ourselves, we have to come back into being true servants of Allah. When we move, and yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects us to be functional beings on this earth, by the way. He says, I brought you out of this earth, وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُمْ فِيهَا. I expect that you're going to build and construct this earth. So there's work for us to do. It's not to say that, Muslimin are the quote-unquote proverbial darawish, who are disconnected from reality. No, we work. We serve. We struggle. We do, but for what cause and informed by what? So work is not a purpose. It's something that has to get done. Right? But it cannot define every single person's young mind's identity. That's not helping the ummah. I'll talk to young people who everyone's trying to make a lot of money because everyone needs a what? Everyone needs that multi-million-dollar mansion that they're watching on TikTok every day. Everyone needs that yacht that they're watching on TikTok every day. Everyone needs that supercar that they're watching on TikTok every day. Do you think that's arbitrary, by the way? That these are the things that literally billions of people are consuming every single day? There are yachts that people have watched inside, outside, whatever, every detail of it, that they'll never even look at one in real life, let alone ever own it or sit in it. But everyone is consumed by Bugattis, a $5 million car, a completely worthless existence of a thing. But everyone's consumed by it as if this defines some, like a North Star. You just put it on your, some of these YouTubers will say, you put it on your vision board. You dream big. Why is this a dream? That's a nightmare. If that's on your dream vision board, you have a nightmare that you're looking towards. What is that? That's not a dream. You understand what I mean by that? It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have nice things. No, if mashallah, Muhammad, you're doing well, Rabbina fatah alayk, you decide, you know what, I like this car, Bismillah, it's fil maqdoor, I'm taking care of my responsibilities, Rabbina yabarik lak. Just don't attach your heart to it. But it's not a purpose. Like meaning that if it exists or doesn't exist, siyan, they're equal to you. Alhamdulillah, exists, it doesn't exist, I'm fine. This is not my purpose. I don't care about this. You're not driving your Bugatti over the Sirat. Yawm al-Qiyamah, you know the Sirat, it's suspended over Jahannam. You're not right. You're like, Dubai, it's not going to help you there. You're not taking it, huh? It's self-driving. maybe you want to get yourself a Tesla or something. I don't know. No, this is not going to help you. It doesn't. It's something of the dunya. That's a simple pleasure. Could be for you, maybe, subhanAllah, Rabbina fatah alayk, you have, mashallah, beautiful big businesses, and you're like, you know what, this is really, Sheikh, this is pennies for me. I know people who are billionaires, they'll tell me this is not even like a drop in the bucket for me. Okay, bismillah. But it's not a purpose. That's why I have a problem when billions of people across the world are watching endless TikToks about this stuff. Because everyone's definition of making it in life is some very superficial, materialistic idea of success, which is excess. It's just things. I'm going to have a position. I'm going to be looked at in a certain way. I'm going to have eyes on me, right? People in the public sphere look at me. They acknowledge me. They see me. Everyone wants to be seen today. You don't want to be seen, by the way. You want to go, you know what? You know when you're not going to want to be seen? Guess what? When are you going to not want to be seen? Yawm al-Qiyamah. On the Day of Judgment, you're going to be like, hide me, khabuni, put me anywhere. Just, Ya Rasulullah, please, let me stay right behind you. I don't want to be seen. But why are we so obsessed with being seen in this life? I want to be validated. I want to be celebrated. Celebrate me. Look at me. Watch me. That's why these young kids, masakeen, they're watching all this nonsense all day and they're becoming narcissists. They're becoming a little crazy. They are obsessed with attention. I want attention. We've become like these seething animals over attention. Everyone believes that they're entitled to everything. So you have a lot of bloated egos walking around thinking they're entitled to everything. You're not entitled to anything. You know that? You're not entitled to a thing. You're not owed one thing by Allah. Did we ever really internalize that idea? But we walk around like as if we are like pharaohs, entitled to like ubudiyya, serve me, tend to me, surrender to me, please me, make me happy, you know, dance for me, celebrate, me. We are entitled to nothing. We deserve nothing. We are entitled to being servants of Allah. And that's a humble servant who works and seeks and builds lillah. You know, subhanallah, I know I'm supposed to close up a moment. اخذ راحتي انا ممكن اقعد لغايه يعني هيزعلوا ولا حاجه ما اعرفش يعني. I'll tell you just I'll wrap up with a quick story. My brother-in-law Khalid, Jordanian guy, some of you know him. He has a beautiful mother. Where? In Gimim. Gimim is a village in Irbid, nearby Irbid. Well, is it in Irbid or nearby Irbid? It's right there in the Irbid region in Jordan. I first started visiting them in my first time going to Jordan was in the year 2000 when I went to University of Jordan for 1 year to study Sharia. This was like between high school and college. I met this woman and this man, rahimahullah, Abu Khalid passed away 6 years ago or 10 years ago maybe, but I met both of them. And I just saw two people who were living lives that really blew my mind. Abu Khalid, a truck driver in the valleys of Jordan, simple man. His wife, Khalid, illiterate woman, la taktub wa la taqra, never wrote or read one word in her life. But these are the happiest people I've ever met in my life. Just pure bliss. You never see them with anything just like gushing joy, right? Khalid is this beautiful ball of fun and laughter and happiness. And all she's doing all day is kneading dough, preparing manasif, preparing مسخن. That's all she's doing all day. هات الزيتون, جيب الزيتون, ودي الزيتون, زيت زيتون, زيت زيتون. A lot of zit zaytoon is inside this project. A lot of zaytoon. That's life. Zit zaytoon, zaytoon, bread, manasif. Jannatul Naeem. And then what do you have? She's sitting around. Khalid, mashallah, birthed 11 children. And she is the wet nurse of something like half of the village in Gamim. Mashallah. يعني هي رضعت تقريبا like 60 to 70 people in the village. So she's sitting there in her house, mashallah, humble, on the twin trees all around. And what does she have all day? People flowing through. People flowing through. And what do you think she's doing all day? بتخدم. She's serving, preparing. She sees me, لازم تاكل. You have to eat. You didn't eat. مش عارف ايه كذا كذا. كاسات شاي. 75,000 كاسات شاي until you like become a tea bag, right? You don't stop drinking tea. قهوة سادة. All this stuff. You don't stop. You just eat, drink, enjoy life, happiness. You watch her life as it's progressed. Abu Khalid, may Allah rahmatullahi alayhi, when he was dying, he died. And he started to lose a lot of his limbs because of like diabetes and things like that, advanced diabetes and that kind of stuff. And he lost a lot of his sight, a lot of his hearing. But he lived Aziz until the last moment he died. Why? Why did he live Aziz? Because everyone there was there to serve him. How do you think this khidmah, the service that he was getting, was acquired? What did he do? Huh? He sacrificed and he served people his whole life. He gave every moment that he had to his family and to the masjid. Simple man. The masjid actually built a railing just for him. Because when he got so much older, he needed a railing just to kind of like scooch into the masjid. They built a railing that was his whole life. To go to, and then sit in the masjid and yell at the khatib. That was his... he used to love to go and get angry with the khatib for what the khatib is saying. It was a beautiful life. You go to Khalid, all she's doing, what's her rinse and repeat of her life? Khidmah, 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 khidmah. So what does she end up with as a result? These two people, to me, are the two wealthiest people I've ever met in my life. And by wealthy, it has nothing to do with this nonsense. They are wealthy. They're wealthy في نفسهم الغنى غنى النفس. They're wealthy in their souls, and they're wealthy in their relationships. They have what the Arab call al-izwa. They have it. So they're wealthy. My brother-in-law, who's, mashallah, he's in his 60s now, he will travel whenever he can, any window of time, to go into this village in Gamim, find his mother and sleep at her feet. And do it like with a sense of such honor. His brothers who are there will sleep at her feet so that when she wakes up, يخدموها. And all she wants to do is do what? Serve. That's all she wants to do. No, please, I'll feed you. No, Habibi, you're taban, until you're tired. No, you said that you work too hard. I'll take care. That's all she wants to do. Selfless, zero ego, zero nafs, none of it. You don't see it. Like, this is my testimony. I have never seen these people as being egotistical, nafsani driven. We have lost the compass completely, by the way. Those people are living rich, beautiful lives, and we're living something very different. We've lost the mark. And you and I keep on banking on the same nonsense. I'm going to invest in myself. It doesn't work. All of us have invested in ourselves sufficiently. Are you happier? Are you more content? You have more things. Okay, you got your PhD, you got your MD, you got your whatever. And then what? You're still lonely and miserable. How has it helped you? Tell me, define to me. I'm not saying PhDs or MDs are inherently wrong or bad. No, I'm just saying you have pursued this. You put all your eggs in one basket. This is my maslaha. Maslahti huna, in this paper. Are you better? Is your welfare better? Is your human condition, is it better? Are you happy? You have no relationships. You're lost. You haven't invested in people. Why do you think you're entitled for people to care about you when you barely care about people? It's a simple equation. جُبِلَ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى حُبِّ مَنْ أَحْسَنَ إِلَيْهِ. We are مجبولين, we are naturally disposed towards one thing. حُبِّ مَنْ أَحْسَنَ إِلَيْهِ. إِذَا أَحْسَنْتَ إِلَيَّ أَحْبَبْتُكَ. If you're good to me, I love you. So what do you think you should be doing most of the time? Investing in people. Be good to this person, that person, take care of that person. Then you end up with wealth of people who are like, الرجل ده يهمني. That's why there's social psychologists, they say, when it comes to parenting, like raising children, parents are always thinking, how can I secure my child's future? Right? That's one of the big motivating factors of people. How can I secure my child's future? Do you know what the number one thing that will truly be of benefit in that realm of securing? Only Allah secures, of course, but the best sabab, the best means in the worldly realm to secure the future of a child or any person? It's like social psychologists say, it is a function of how many people you're able to really convince to be invested in your child. That's why you go to a lot of like faith communities, a lot of them, they're all insular. Like you go to an Orthodox community, a kid growing up in that community knows what? I have a bunch of, uncles, proverbial ammus who are invested in my welfare. I never have to worry about a job because I have 30 people in my orbit who are like going to roll out the red carpet for me. So you want to ensure your child's welfare, you need to figure out how to get people to be invested in your child. Guess what your child has to learn then? If your child only learns, hey, go study, go take care of yourself, do your programs, do this, go get a career, go. So the child sacrifices the family time, doesn't have any conception of like taking care of family members, no idea of khidmah. Everyone here suddenly starts to hate cooking and cleaning as if it's like the worst possible vice. Where Khalid's entire empire was built off of cooking. That's how she built her massive net worth, by just learning how to take care of people. It's the biggest asset that we can have in the social sphere. And we've squandered it as if it's garbage. So we rely on what? Ordering. Order food. Order doesn't bring nothing, doesn't bring happiness to the heart. Khalid's big smiley face, stuffing a raghif of fresh bread with zit zatoun in your mouth, that brings happiness right into your deep psyche. So we have young kids who are growing up obsessed with themselves. They go off to college. They spend years at college, disconnected from the family. Every young kid now is obsessed with doing what? Leaving their families. Like I have young people come to me, Sheikh, I just can't wait until I leave my home. Okay, to do what? I just want to get out. To go where? I just want to be free. To do what? I just want to live my life. Kalam fadi, ay kalam. The Egyptians say, Hafiz msh fahim. Like the Egyptians say, this is someone who memorized, but doesn't understand what they're saying. I just need to get out. I need to be free. I need to live my life. What does this stuff mean? Tell me. Like this is empty. This means nothing. You know why they're saying that? Where did they memorize that from? Ammu Disney. Every Disney movie says the same thing. Tells these little kids, oh, your parents are holding you back. Go free. Go to the other side of the ocean. That's where you're going to find yourself. Right? Every movie in Disney starts off that way. Or Pixar, any of them. Starts off with this like little mesquite character who's like, is in their village at home and bothered and whatever. And just needs to, if they could just get away from their family, they're going to be better. So you have entire generations of young people thinking that that's where their welfare lies. Let me tell you something. You leave your family, go, ma-salama, go. I'll tell you. Now, we've had iterations of already people who left their families, and they went out, and now they're in their late 30s and 40s. And guess where they are? Guess where they are? They're alone. They're miserable. They're sad. They're depressed. They don't care about their family. Because you know what they say? Oh, I hate my family. My family doesn't care about me. Why does your family hate you? Because they should be reaching out to me and loving me. Why should they love you and reach out to you? You've been living your life free. Is that what you wanted? You wanted to be free. You're free. And you detached yourself from your family. And so your family is not as invested anymore. You showed no investment into your family. Why should your family be invested in you? You did not spend time. You go to Imam right now, you'll see an army of little kids. All of you guys know what I'm talking about. Running, bikhdimu, khaddamin, like in the house. It doesn't matter. Like a guest comes into the space, it's like a machine turns on. The kids are starting to like roll out plastic things on the floor, bring them shafi, bring this, bring the plates, bring the spoons and shafi, prepare. All these are kids doing this stuff. I remember I was sitting there at the mensaf, and subhanAllah, I didn't realize this about that culture, but if the guest is eating, the hosts can't leave the sidr because it's bad adab, because like you may be done eating, but the host keeps on eating and then you stay there. So in the beginning I had no idea about this. So I'm sitting there, I'm a big guy, I like to eat, right? And it's a big sidr. And I see like Khalid's relatives like taking like pieces of rice and like just keeping me. They don't want it. And I'm like, why aren't you guys eating? They're like, oh, no, cool, we're good. We're just, we're eating with you. And then I realized they're just being polite so that I can eat to my fill. And then as soon as I say I'm done, this engine of young kids turns on, picking up, cleaning, vacuuming, whatever, spotless. This is what young kids over there are being trained to do. You think young kids have any conception of this stuff here? They are the most bloated, narcissistic creatures in our day and age. Young kids are becoming fara'ina, pharaohs walking on earth. So they have no problem disrespecting elders. Every young person walks around cursing their parents as if their parents are like the shayateen. You've destroyed my life. You have people, men and women in their 40s and 50s that we talk to. My whole life is a disaster because of my father. Yes, I know. You're in your 50s. You still have daddy issues? You're in your 50s. You still have daddy issues? No, you have a problem. You have a disaster on your hands if that's still the case. Because you don't appreciate the fact that you are a narcissist. You believe everything revolves around you. You barely care for people. How much time do you spend investing in people? If you really critique yourself, it's very minimal. So you're not entitled to anything. You want something? Give a lot. Simple sunan. Simple sunan. That's why I believe everyone needs to travel to Imam and study in the madrasa of Khalid and Abu Khalid and learn how to live life. How to be a father, how to be a mother, how to be a child. We need to go learn this stuff because we've lost our mark. We have to learn what it means to live for a cause far greater than our narcissistic selves. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires us to figure out as a community how we begin to sincerely live for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we exist on this earth. Lillahi wa li rasulih. May that inform and define each and every single one of our lives. May Allah grant us al-hikmah, wisdom in living this life. And the Prophet says, Allah says in the Quran, and the one who has been given wisdom has been given khayran kathira. Because a little bit of wisdom will take you a long way. But you can be all the educated, you can have every MD, PhD, every letter in the alphabet attached to your name. But if you have no wisdom, you're lost. A little bit of wisdom, some foresight, some insight, you're wealthy. May Allah grant us the wisdom of the awwaloon, who knew how to live life meaningfully, who knew how to have nice, beautiful marriages and relationships and homes, who knew how to invest themselves in the house of Allah, who knew how to serve the deen of Allah, who lived only for the sake of serving Allah and serving His creation. That's why we live. May Allah help us to do that, to live truly prophetic lives, free of ourselves. May Allah help us take care of ourselves by doing what? By freeing our minds of ourselves. May Allah place in our minds and our hearts the reality of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. May nothing else be in our hearts and minds. Everything else in our limbs. The only thing in our heart and minds, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. I feel like I went on very long. Sheikh Muhammad Musa didn't stop me. Huh? Barakallahu feekum.
All right, inshallah, we're going to just go around, inshallah, and see if there's any questions. So if anyone, if there are any questions, please raise your hand. Sister in the back. عندنا مايك شيخ؟
That's a very good question. May Allah bless you. So here's what I'll say. First off, the idea that I'm set in a path, I think is something that I would challenge. Yeah, it could be the case. I heard her very clear, mashallah. It could be the case. Do I have to repeat the question for online or something? Or we're good? We're good. It could be the case that a person has charted a course in their life where this job plays a big role. But nothing is set. Nothing is set. This is just something that I happen to be doing right now, because it could happen that, for example, tomorrow a person gets laid off and no one wants to hire them. So there's nothing set in stone. It just happens to be that this is currently a part of who and what it is I do with my life. I believe that every single person has to really take a step back and ask, why have I done this in the first place? What was it that I was pursuing? Because this is the type of muhasabah, this is the type of accounting, not Khalid type of accounting, but like Akhirah, he's an accountant. I'm talking about the type of accounting that will register in the Akhirah. Because you and I have to be ready to answer that question. It's because it's going to come. Allah is going to say, why did you choose to do this? So that's the first critical question I have to ask. And I have to come to terms with that. Now, could be that this job is something that when I first answer that question, I come and assess, what does this job represent in my life? What is this job doing in my life? How is it affecting my life? So I have to do some checks and balances. I have to see, like, okay, it's bringing me some income. Okay, that's a good thing. Do I need it? That's a question to ask. Do I need this income? What does this job represent? What are the consequences of this job? Because this job, a man may be in a job where he's working 100 hours a week, and there's serious consequences to that, right? Sorry, those allergies are working. So there's serious consequences to that. So why are you insisting on this job? Because you're sacrificing your relationship as a father with your children, or as a mother with your children. You're sacrificing your relationship with the community. You're not building strong bonds, right? You're in this space which is taking up, X percentage of your life. So those are all, and of course there's different types of jobs and people in different, there's a lot of considerations, but these are the types of hard-hitting, critical questions that indicate someone's sincerity. Because it could be that if you go through this rigorous process of critical analysis, it could result in the fact that, you know what, maybe I shouldn't even be in this job in the first place. Maybe it is genuinely, objectively, after I've checked everything thoroughly, the best thing for me to do is to actually leave this job. Or to leave this job and to go into another job so I can accomplish 1, 2, 3 objectively good goals. Or based on my life and where things are, there's no objective reason to leave this job. Those are all possible outcomes. But I think we all have to have the courage for those outcomes. Because one thing that exists is that we like what we like and we don't want to leave what we like. And we're scared to leave the things that we like. Because we have a false sense of security. I've worked all my life to accomplish X. You want me to walk away from this? That's a really scary thing to have to consider. My answer to that is maybe yes, maybe no. It really depends on the person. It depends on the person's circumstance, their life, etc. I have a real problem when now, after dealing with thousands of people in their intimate problems in the communal space, that I have this massive hurdle called my identity and my purpose and my self-worth and everything. And you have basically competing, relationships have become a battle of wills, right? It's my will versus your will. It's like, it's Darwinian. That's why Darwinism is a modern age like governing philosophy. We have become Darwinian in our orientations. So basically it's the survival of the fittest. Who's gonna beat out the other person? That's not a way to exist. So I think every man and every woman who has gone down the path of careerism has to really question every level of that path. And yeah, it's very plausible, dear sister, that a person could have gone down a path, not really conscious of what it is they were doing, perhaps riddled with blind spots, and suddenly I'm 20 years in, and I find myself here, and maybe it is that, wait, I have to make a serious alteration to this direction in my life, because this is not really helping me the way I thought. This is not securing my welfare the way I really thought. Okay, fine, I have young people, and not so young people who come to me in their mid-30s and 40s and like, wallahi, I've had one person come to me once and crying, and they say, I did everything that was expected of me. Why am I miserable? Wallahi, I have a lot of people who talk to me this way. I accomplished everything that was expected to me. Like, my parents really wanted me to accomplish big things. I did. But how come it's coming at serious costs? Like, I don't have any rich relationships. I'm not a part of a community. I'm lonely. I can't find marriage. I can't. Yeah, unfortunately, those decisions had consequences. And it's deeply unfortunate. And it breaks my heart very often. Right? And perhaps in the future we can talk. Listen, I have a lot more to say. And I don't mind getting into the weeds of this, where it gets complicated and messy. And it gets really challenging. I can get into that space. Tonight is not going to suffice because we have to really open up the books. Khalid, when you have a serious accounting problem, what do you have to do? You got to go and open up the books. You got to go into the line items. Oh, it's right here. This is why the IRS is following you. It's right on this line item. So sometimes we have to open up the books. So I hope that that gives you an idea of what it could look like. But I can't speak to any individual circumstance. I can give those generalities, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq. He grant us tawfiq, and that's why we have a beautiful dua. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah. That's a very beautiful dua. Show me truth as truth, apparently, and give me the rizq of following it. Because to follow it is rizq. You have to be muwaffaq to follow it. A lot of people know what's right, but they're not muwaffaqun in following it, because something is stopping them. Their nafs, their egos, their weaknesses, their laziness. So there has to be rizq in Allah from Ar-Razzaq for me to follow what is true. وَأَرِنَا الْبَاطِلَ بَاطِلًا, and show me falsehood as falsehood. وَأَرِنَا الْبَاطِلَ بَاطِلًا وَارْزُقْنَا اجْتِنَابَهُ, and grant me also the rizq of staying away from it. اللهم آمين.
تفضل.
DMV had it right all the time. See, all that time waiting in line is for a reason.
Okay, inshallah. How long do you guys usually go on? No, we can go till midnight with you, Shaykhna. Yeah, actually, I have one question. So a lot of times when we're talking to our children, right, we're talking about we're prioritizing education and then career and so on and so forth, and that drives that into their heads. How do we sort of shift that when speaking with our kids while ensuring that they do, of course, focus on their studies, but prioritize obviously the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over that?
That's a very critical question. Barakallahu feek, Diyal, for asking. Because there is, so a lot of us, our MO, MO meaning the simple standard procedural thing of our lives that governs who we are is this idea of like school, education, career success. Like and that takes up the lion's share of our children's time, their imagination, their thought process. So there's this ever-encompassing thing called school. So life is governed as a function of schooling, right? And you have to do really good at school. And you have to do a lot of extracurricular activities so you can get into a competitive program, so you can do good for yourself. Maslahtak, right? That's what we're here for, your maslaha, for your benefit. So you can get a good job, so you can make good money. So imagine, yes, if that's if that's the lion's share of what my intake from when I'm first, second, third, 12th grade, college, if that's the lion's share of what I am processing, then guess what the lion's share of my existence will be? A function of that. So therefore, we have to come back and create a very different balance in our children's lives. I'll tell you, personally, this is like a personal thing, I don't allow schooling to dictate my child's life. Schooling, I believe in education. I want my children to be educated. I want them to learn. Now, I believe in education as a virtue, right? That, we are, قُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. So I want education. Now, education has priorities. The first and most critical education for me is the Quran and Sunnah. That's the most important education. The sacred tradition. That's number 1 through 10 on the list. Then at number 11 are some of the, what are known as worldly secular, right? The contextual sciences. Yes, I want education in that space. So I want them to be literate, capable, have broadened horizons, understand, etc. But for my children, I want them to live a very distinct life where there is a balance of power in terms of their pursuits. So for example, I recently went to Umrah. It was a 2-week trip. I took my children out of school. But I don't care about vacation time. I don't care. These are my kids. The principal does not own my children. I own my children. Well, Allah owns them. But I am their caretakers, right? So I want them to go on Umrah because this to me is very critical for their development. I want them to be immersed. Last year we took them out of school a month early so they can go spend a month in Ecuador with my wife's family. And then after that to fly to Egypt to go into a developmental program that we have for them in Egypt. This is what I want for my children. I don't want school to dictate for me based on schedules of vacations, whatever, how the lion's share of what my child's time is going to be spent with. If I have the option between extracurricular activities and family time, like a family gathering over extracurricular activity any day. Because I don't want my child becoming self-obsessed. We have children who their parents will excuse their absence, their lateness to no end. Because why? Habibi Liya, he's accomplishing so much. Habibi Liya fin fil aila. We want him in the family. Present in family gatherings. Like there has to be a balance. It's not a zero-sum game. So we think, you go balls to the wall, if you will, when it comes to career, pursuits, whatever, blah, 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 success, money generation, and everyone will roll out the red carpet. As long as Diya is in the pursuit of money in excess, we will roll out the red carpet for him to do that. But he's losing everything on this side. I want my children who are growing up in this country to be like those little kids in Gimim. I want them running around serving. Right? I want them, they kiss their elders' hands. My children, they kiss their elders' hands. Right? They kiss their parents' hands and they kiss their grandparents' hands. And if a sheikh comes, they kiss the sheikh's hand. They better respect your elder. And you serve. And you pick up and you clean. And you never sit down first. You serve your guests. And you stand like a maid preparing to rush for anyone when their cup is finished. You have to invest time in teaching your kids those values that you grew up with and you love. Everyone loves to see that in a child. But you have to teach that to your child. Right? So you have to invest that type of time. Doesn't matter what you're doing during the day in that so-called thing called your job, your employment, whatever. That's not your job. Your job is to take whatever it is those earnings are and go invest it in your real job, which is serving the deen of Allah and serving your family, serving your community. That's your job. The thing you do during the day, that's just to earn some rizq. That's all it is. But you have to invest time, weekends. Listen, you go to these Orthodox Jewish communities, man, they are like khaliyat nahl. They're like a beehive. Moving, rushing, always studying, Torah, this study, yeshiva, night and day. They have a whole structure to construct the identity of a little Orthodox Jewish boy. And they don't mess around. They have their North Star. They have what Israel represents, so-called Israel represents to them. They have it all planned out, measured out. These children know exactly what they're doing. You go to Utah with the Mormon church. And why am I bringing these examples? I'm not saying they're models. They don't represent a model that, that we look up to. I am just giving you models of people that exist in this modern period, in this country, in this world, who are living lives with far more intentionality than we are. You go to the Mormons in Utah, theology and John Smith and all that aside, they're living a life rooted in family, in the church. They all have like 25 kids. On top of that, 25 adopted kids. And all they do is serve people all across the world. They're living a life with mission. You see all these little Mormon kids? When I was teaching at Harvard, I just stopped teaching last year. But I would have like, Southern Baptist children coming from, the South or Midwest, little Mormon kids. These are like, I'm like, man, you guys are the best Muslims I've ever met. And they're Mormons. Now, of course, they're not Muslimin. I'm using poetic, they're not Muslimin, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but their akhlaq and their purpose and their disposition and their drive, these are young kids. I'm like, please come and give a halaqah to our kids. Where did you grow up? Who taught you these values? They're living a distinct life. That's why the answer to your question is that we have to, mashallah, this room is full of beautiful faces. Really well-intentioned people. I have no doubt that everyone who's coming to a masjid on a Saturday night and still listening to me, it's 9:10, is coming because there's goodness in your hearts. Bifadlillahi ta'ala. May Allah make us far better than what we are. However, there's work to be done. We need to all collectively roll up our sleeves and start to develop strategies. We need to befriend networks of people. I have a project called Prophetic Living. This is my personal initiative. That's all I'm invested in doing, is developing families and networks of people to live with greater intentionality and purpose, so that we can construct spaces where our children are being nourished theologically, spiritually, socially. They have their values in order. They're not confused of who's a man and who's a woman. No, habibi. This is a man, this is a woman. That's all you need to know. It's not complicated, right? That's not confusing anymore. Simple, straight values. You experience. I want my children, for example, I want them to be immersed in visiting the cultures across the world that have far more wisdom than our culture here has. 100%. So I want them to go and spend quality time immersed in those cultures. My son Zaid, when he went to Turkey for the first time, he was lying down looking up at in Masjid al-Fatih. You know Masjid al-Fatih in Istanbul? If you haven't been there, may Allah bless you to go there. This is a masjid that was built by Mi'mar Sinan. Mi'mar Sinan, one of the great architects of Islamic history, of the Ottoman Empire. He built these beautiful masajid across Turkey and across the world, the entire region, not just Turkey, where the Ottoman Empire had spread into parts of Europe, etc. So Zaid, I have this video. I wasn't there, unfortunately, with them, but Zaid was there, and he's like looking up at the sky, and he's like, he's drunk. He looks like he's drunk in the video. He's like, Mama, are we in Jannah? He's looking up at the ceiling of the masjid. And he was saying it sincerely. And what struck me about that, I was like, man, this young boy, he's looking up at the ceiling of a masjid. And he thinks it's Jannah. And I was like, why does he think this is Jannah? You want the answer to that question? Study our heritage. Go understand who Mi'mar Sinan is. How the philosophy with which he built these beautiful edifices. This is a man of ihsan. This is a man of Allah who built this remarkable space. And so we have in our heritage richness that our country could not even dream of. All we have is like big skyscrapers, metal structures with ceramic and stuff like that. Then you go to Morocco and you see the masajid of Morocco, Madrasat Yusuf ibn Tashfin. You go to these places and you say, you're breathtaken by its beauty. You have to expose yourself and your children to that to the best of your ability. If you're not able to go because you don't have the financial means, then at least plan for it 1 point but definitely immerse yourself in that culture here. A big part of my personal project is bringing that culture here. We have to be exporters or importers of that culture. The way you decorate your home, is critical. The functionality of your home. Forget about feng shui and Marie Kondo and organizing in plastic containers. No, you have to think about the Islamic heritage. What a space actually represents. How do you sit down and you eat? How do you congregate? How do you separate your rooms? What is calligraphy, art, architecture? We need to expose ourselves to the richness of our heritage, because our heritage has everything to offer us. That's a part of the project, right? And bifadlillahi ta'ala, one of the true blessings of our diverse community is we have all these cultures here. Unfortunately, we've muted them and we've deleted them. And we left it back home. So, Musa, mashallah, brother Musa Franco is dressed here beautifully in the Moroccan garb. Yes, it's bring that back. By the way, this right here, Sheikh Muhammad, Saidi. Who said it? Saidi. This is Saidi. Do you think I'm naive to what Saidi means? I know exactly what Saidi means. Saidi in the parlance of people is what? Why do I wear this? Why do I wear this? I'm not naive. I know exactly why I'm wearing this. Why do I wear this? Because my Sheikh Ahmed Taha Rayyan, was from Said, and he wore this garb. And so I represent that heritage in the richest possible way that I can. It's fine, you can wear suits and pants. I have no problem with that. I'm not saying you have to wear this, but I imported this, yes, and this is very relevant. This is not irrelevant. This is not just, some libas. No, this represents richness. When sometimes you'll see me wearing the Azhari tarbush and kada. It represents something that I am importing into this land so that it becomes a part of the mosaic of this country. I want this country to see the richness and the beauty of our heritage. It's not arbitrary that you go across the Muslim world where Islam permeates for centuries and every culture has some form of a flowing garb. Whether it's the shawar kameez in the subcontinent, or it's the jubba, or the kakola, or whatever it is, flowing garb. There's a reason why men dress this way. We have to introduce that richness, not just to dismiss it, right? No, your homes, the way your homes were arranged back home, the way you grew up, bring that back here. Don't just abide by the architectural ideology of some random guy who's just thinking about maximizing output. They couldn't care. You think these architects are producing with ihsan? All they care about is what? Finishing the job, maximizing so they can sell more at a cheap, more. That's all they're thinking about. No, we have a richer, more profound culture. That's all of what I'm talking about, is what we need to expose our children to. And you have that, bifadlillah, sitting in a room like this. If you all just sit back and have a halaqah about your cultures back home and how you lived, everyone has an Khalid. You guys have Khalids and Abu Khalids. You know them, 100%. You know them very well. You have an Abu Khalid in your Khalid in your orbit. Bring them. Bring them, not necessarily physically, bring them, Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you all, to bless Sheikh Muhammad for inviting me and being so patient, mashallah, listening. And if he disagrees with me, inshallah, you'll hear it in the khutbah. May Allah bless you all. Thank you for having me. Wallahi, it's been a pleasure. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all tawfiq in our lives and to allow us to live rich, beautiful lives. Fi sabilillah. May our journeys be marked by the wonder of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the beauty of our Quran, the beauty of our heritage. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with us in this life and grant us the most elevated and elected stations in the afterlife. May we have all of the na'im of the jinan. May we be in the company of Al-Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam through all of the stations of this life and the afterlife. Allahumma ameen. Barakallahu feekum wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Burak Sheikhna. Inshallah, regarding prophetic living, you want to give a little bit of snippet? I know you might have some classes coming up, inshallah, that people can...
So prophetic living is an initiative that inshallah you can, if you're on Facebook, you can follow us on Facebook, Prophetic Living. We have a gathering every Thursday in Boonton, New Jersey. Boonton's, maybe, I don't know how far it is for some of you guys, but you can find the flyer online. We also have a class. We do a registered course every Monday. We just finished the last course, 12 sessions. We're starting the next course early February. Every Monday, and inshallah we're going to have an official launch for prophetic living right after Ramadan, bi'idhnillah. But that's in the meantime some of the programming that we're doing. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair.
بورك شيخنا السلام عليكم.